It wasn't our first choice. The original unit we applied for fell through after the previous tenant decided to renew at the last minute. We'd packed, booked the movers, taken time off work, so we scrambled. That's when Matt found the listing for the Ashmere Loft. 3rd floor, corner unit, hardwood floors, rent that felt almost criminally low. Too good to be true, I told him half-jokingly. He shrugged. What, you think it's haunted or something? The building was old. That kind of glamorous decay people pretend to like until they hear the pipes groan at midnight. A converted warehouse downtown with exposed brick, high ceilings, and drafty windows that shuddered when it stormed. But the space itself? Gorgeous. Except for the mirror. It was mounted on the wall across from the bed, about 7 feet long and 4 feet high, framed in dark wood that looked hand-carved and warped in places. The landlord told us it was original, installed back when the building had been an office space in the 1930s. It was bolted in. Non-negotiable. It's part of the historic value, he said, like that was something we were supposed to care about. We didn't think much of it at first. It was creepy, sure. But it was also just a mirror. A big one. Convenient for dressing. I joked that it made the room feel like a luxury hotel. Matt joked that we'd get matching robes and stare dramatically into it like movie villains. I remember the first night we slept there. The room was mostly unfurnished. Just our mattress on the floor, some boxes, and that mirror glaring at us from across the room. I didn't sleep well. Every time I turned over, I caught a glimpse of us reflected back in the dark. 2 vague shapes under blankets. One of them always looked like it was sitting up. But I told myself it was just shadows. Just adjustment. That was before the whispering. Before the reflections started changing. Before I realized we were never alone in that room. The first thing that made me pause was subtle. I was brushing my hair in front of the mirror one morning, sunlight coming through the windows, NPR playing softly on my phone. I turned slightly to grab a hair tie from the dresser, and for the briefest flicker of time, my reflection didn't move. It was just a beat behind. A blink. A hesitation. But I noticed. I stared at it. It stared back. Then it smiled. I hadn't smiled. My throat went dry. I blinked hard and shook my head, brushing it off. Trick of the light. Fatigue. A product of too much packing and not enough sleep. But something about the mirror stuck in my mind the rest of the day. When Matt got home, I asked if it had ever weirded him out. He looked at it, then back at me. It's a mirror. It's big. That's all. I feel like I keep catching it lagging. He grinned. Maybe you're living in a simulation. That night, we had sex with the mirror covered. I didn't say anything about it, but I threw a throw blanket over it while Matt was in the bathroom. Just didn't want to see it. Didn't want to see us. When I peeled the blanket off the next morning, there were fingerprints on the glass. Not just mine. Not 2. Dozens. Some were small. Child-sized. I asked Matt if he touched it. He said no. We hadn't had guests. The movers didn't come into the bedroom. I wiped it clean, trying to ignore the pit opening in my gut. That night, I tried to take a picture of the mirror because it felt like a stupid, simple way to prove to myself that nothing was wrong. I stood in front of it, lifted my phone, and snapped a quick shot. The photo came out wrong. I mean, we were both in it, me and Matt sitting on the bed. But in the reflection, Matt was staring at me. And in reality, he was looking at his phone. He laughed when I showed him. Weird timing. I wanted to believe him. But I started noticing it more and more. The reflections not matching reality. The sense of pressure in the room at night. A low hum in the silence, like electricity in the walls. I stopped undressing in front of it. I stopped brushing my teeth with the door open. I started feeling like I was being timed, like something was recording me, not with a camera, but with intent. The worst moment came a few nights later. I woke up at 2:41 a.m. according to the glowing red digits on the alarm clock. Matt wasn't in bed. I sat up. He was standing in front of the mirror. Still. Silent. Not moving. Matt. I whispered. He didn't react. I pulled the blanket around me and got up slowly, walked over to him. His eyes were wide open, but glassy. Not blinking, not focused, just staring into the glass like it was showing him something else. Something better. Something that belonged to him. I touched his arm. He blinked and flinched back like he'd been shocked. "What the hell? You were just standing here," I said. He looked at the mirror. I don't remember getting up. You've been here for at least 5 minutes. He shook his head, breathing hard. I was dreaming. I thought I was in there. In where? He stared at the mirror again. In that room. Watching us. I didn't let him sleep near it after that. We pulled the mattress to the other side of the room. Covered the mirror again. Matt didn't argue. But I still felt it. Even through the blanket. Even through the dark. Like something was still pressing its face to the glass. Waiting for us to fall asleep. We tried pretending it was normal. Moved the bed. Covered the mirror. Turned up music at night. But it didn't help. Something had already set in. Like the apartment had learned our rhythms. Like the walls listened. Matt started sleepwalking. It began 2 nights after the mirror episode. I woke up and found him standing by the window. Not doing anything, just facing the street, his hand pressed against the glass like he was waiting for someone to knock from the outside. He didn't respond until I shook him hard. His eyes snapped back into focus, and he mumbled something I couldn't make out. I pulled him back to bed. He didn't even remember getting up. The next night, it happened again. But this time, he wasn't by the window. He was standing in front of the mirror again. Even though we'd covered it. Even though we'd moved the bed. He'd pulled the blanket down. The mirror was exposed. And Matt was just standing there, still and locked, his lips moving soundlessly. Like he was answering someone I couldn't hear. I didn't touch him this time. I just stood in the corner of the room, holding my phone, heart in my throat. I whispered, "Matt?" He didn't blink. But the reflection in the mirror did. That's when I lost it. I ran to him and shoved him hard. He staggered back, eyes snapping open, swearing under his breath. "You were talking," I said. "Who were you talking to?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "What are you talking about?" "You were talking to the mirror." "No," he said, rubbing his head. I thought I was dreaming. I was walking down a hallway, and there was a woman in the mirror. She had her back to me. I kept following her. And he looked away. She had my voice. That was when I decided to stop trusting what we could see with our eyes. I set up the laptop on the dresser. Propped it up so the webcam pointed straight at the mirror. I told Matt it was just to put my mind at ease. He didn't argue. We left the room like that overnight. No blanket over the mirror. Just the 2 of us sleeping in our pulled-away bed, while the laptop recorded for 8 hours straight. The next morning, I didn't want to look. But I knew I had to. Matt was already in the shower when I opened the file. The first 2 hours were quiet. Just us. Nothing weird. Nothing moving. Then around 2:12 a.m. I noticed something odd. The mirror fogged slightly. Not like condensation. Like breath. A smudge grew slowly on the left edge, then vanished. Then it happened again, closer to the center. No sound, no movement in the room. Just patches of distortion on the glass. At 3:06 a.m., things changed. Matt sat up in bed, only in the mirror. Not in real life. I paused the video. Looked at the timestamp. Played it again. In the mirror, his reflection sat up. Turned its head. Looked straight at the laptop. But Matt, the real Matt, was still asleep. Unmoving. I rewound it again and again. Each time the same. Then it got worse. At 3:44 a.m., a shadow moved behind the glass. Not in the room. Inside the mirror. It was hard to see, like it was pacing. Not fully visible. But it had shape. Height. Gait. Shoulders. Arms that hung too low. The figure circled slowly, like it was mimicking our walk from earlier that night. And then it stopped. Right behind Matt's reflection. And leaned forward. Right into his ear. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I felt bile rise in my throat. I ran to the bathroom, shoved the door open. Matt turned, startled. "What the hell?" "Don't go near the mirror," I whispered. "Not alone." He stepped out, dripping wet. "What did you see?" I shook my head. "It's not just reflecting. It's recording us. Or mocking us. Or something. There's something inside it." Matt stood there, towel around his waist, face pale. He finally said, "We need to find out what's behind that wall." The mirror wasn't just decoration. That was obvious now. What wasn't obvious, what kept Matt and me pacing the bedroom for hours, was what else it was. Who had put it there? Why it was mounted so tightly? Why the wall behind it sounded different from the others when we knocked? Thicker. Hollower. Like something was inside. We didn't have tools, just basic apartment junk. But desperation makes you resourceful. Matt took the base of a lamp and used it to loosen one of the wood panels beside the mirror frame. The plaster behind it cracked like eggshells. Beneath that, old brick and thin support beams, barely held together. It was the smell that made us stop. Something musty and human. Sweat, rot, rust. Not fresh. But not dead either. Matt turned to me. "You sure you want to do this?" "No," I said. "But I think we have to." We worked in silence. Piece by piece, we tore through the plaster around the mirror's left edge. Eventually, the side gave way with a groan, and we saw it. A recessed space, maybe 3 feet deep, running along the length of the mirror. Like an old utility passage, but far too narrow to walk in. It had no lights, no insulation, just darkness and the faint outline of something inside. Matt grabbed a flashlight. He reached in first, angling it between 2 studs. His face went white. "Don't freak out," he said. "What?" "There's a stool in there. Like a little wooden chair. And..." I took the flashlight and peered through the hole. It was worse than he described. Yes, there was a stool. Old and splintered, coated in dust. But beside it were crumpled wrappers, an empty plastic water bottle, and a child's sneaker. Not a pair, just one. Dirty, frayed laces, sole chewed away. On the wall opposite the mirror, I saw something else. Scratches. Dozens of them. Fingernail deep. All in vertical streaks, like someone had tried to claw their way out of the passage and into our bedroom. "That's not a storage space," I said quietly. "Someone's been in there. Watching us." Matt didn't argue. We sealed the opening back as best we could. But the mirror didn't look the same anymore. Now that we knew someone, or something, had been behind it, the whole room felt like a stage. Like everything we did was part of some grotesque performance. That night we slept in the living room. Or tried to. But that's when the whispering began. It started softly. Almost like wind. We lay on the pull-out sofa, the only thing we had in the living room aside from moving boxes and our panic. The lights were off. The windows were closed. But from somewhere in the apartment we both heard it. SHHHHHHH, SHHHHHHH. I sat up. Matt was already alert, staring at the hallway that led back to the bedroom. The sound grew louder. Not wind. Words. Too quiet to understand. But rhythmic. Like someone speaking in a whisper just loud enough to be felt, not heard. It didn't come from one place. It came from everywhere, walls, vents, floorboards. Matt whispered, "It's the mirror." I nodded. We got up and moved like we were trying not to wake something. Step by step, we inched toward the bedroom. The hallway felt longer than it had earlier. The air had weight, and the whispers grew clearer. "Open! Watch!" Almost ready. The bedroom door was ajar. The mirror glowed faintly in the dark. Not with light, but with presence. The kind of glow your mind registers in pitch black, even if your eyes don't see it. I flicked on the light. Nothing happened. I hit the switch again. Still nothing. Power was out. Matt pulled out his phone. Turned on the flashlight. A narrow beam cut across the bed, the floor, and finally, the mirror. And in it we weren't there. Not just a lag. Not a delay. We simply didn't appear. The bed was reflected. The wall. The door. But we weren't in the frame. Then a figure stepped into view, inside the mirror. She was tall. Thin. Wearing my pajamas. But her face was too smooth. Like someone had tried to paint me from memory and got all the details just wrong enough. She tilted her head and whispered, "Let me out." Matt dropped his phone. The flashlight skidded across the floor. I didn't look away. I couldn't. In the mirror, the woman who wasn't me smiled wider, raised her hand, and waved. We left the bedroom that night and didn't return. Matt wanted to leave the apartment completely. Check into a motel. Drive to his brother's place 2 hours away. I almost agreed. But part of me, some awful, trembling part, needed to know what it was. Why it was happening to us. I kept thinking, if we run, what if it follows? What if it's not the apartment? What if it's us now? We stayed. But we stopped sleeping. I covered every reflective surface in the house. Not just the mirror, windows, picture frames, the black microwave door. Even our phones were face down, cameras taped over. But it didn't matter. Something in the air felt off. Like we were being reflected anyway, just not where we could see it. Then the changes began. It started with small things. One morning I walked past the mirror, glanced over instinctively, and froze. The version of me standing in the glass had bloodshot eyes. Deep red veins spidered through both irises. But I didn't feel sick. Didn't have allergies. My real eyes were clear. The reflection blinked at me, then smiled. I didn't smile. I threw the blanket back over the mirror, heart pounding. Later that night, Matt came out of the bathroom, pale and shaking. "Something's wrong with the mirror in there." I followed him back in. The mirror above the sink was still covered, the towel hanging where I draped it. "What did you see?" "Not what." "Who?" He looked at me. "I saw you. In the mirror. Standing behind me. Only you weren't here." I tried to convince him it was a dream. Or stress. But I didn't believe myself. And neither did he. By the end of the week, we were barely speaking. Not out of anger, but because speaking out loud made the whispering worse. Every time we talked, the apartment echoed us back just slightly wrong. Like an imitation listening in. Matt started wearing sunglasses indoors. He said it helped him feel less watched. I started recording myself while I slept. The footage was never the same twice. Some nights, nothing moved. Other nights, I twitched constantly, smiling in my sleep. Once, the reflection in the video sat up, looked straight at the camera, and placed a single finger over its lip. That was the last night I filmed anything. I'd had enough. Matt was spiraling. I couldn't sleep. My body was aching, and there was a raw spot under my ribs that pulsed with heat, like a sunburn from the inside out. We needed answers. So I went to the building manager, a man named Wallace who worked out of a converted storage room 2 floors down. He had a glass eye and a limp, and always smelled like menthol and mothballs. When I knocked, he took a moment to answer. Opened the door just enough for me to see his face. "Something wrong?" he asked flatly. "Yes," I said. "It's the mirror in our unit." His mouth twitched. Just slightly. "What about it?" "It's not right. There's something behind it. A cavity. And something keeps showing up in the reflection that isn't us." He exhaled through his nose. "That mirror's been there a long time. Longer than me." "I don't care how long it's been there," I snapped. "I want it gone." Wallace didn't say anything. Finally, he muttered, "You're not the first ones." That chilled me. "How many?" He shrugged. 10 years. Maybe 5 tenants before you. Same unit. Some people break lease after a month. Some get stuck." "Stuck how?" He didn't answer. I stepped closer. "What's behind that wall? Who built the mirror chamber?" He shook his head. "No one built it. The cavity was already there. Building blueprints don't even show it. We thought it was a storage recess from the original layout, but it doesn't match the architecture." Did anyone ever go in? One guy tried, he muttered. Tore up the plaster, climbed halfway in. Never came out the same. Said he saw a copy of himself further down the shaft. Staring. Smiling. Whispering his thoughts. My mouth went dry. What happened to him? Wallace looked at me dead on. One day his girlfriend woke up and swore the man in bed with her wasn't him. Same face. Same voice. But not him. She swore the real him was still inside the mirror. Where is she now? She left. No forwarding address. What about him? Wallace hesitated. Then said, still lives here. In Unit 307. We were in Unit 309. 2 doors down. That night, Matt asked me what Wallace said. I lied. Told him the mirror was just old. That it had a weird design. That we'd just sleep on the couch again and it'd pass. But I knew better now. We weren't living in that apartment alone. And we never had been. The apartment started changing us. Not just mentally, physically. It was subtle at first. Bruises showing up in places I couldn't remember bumping. Small scratches on my arms, like I'd walked through thorns in my sleep. Then it got stranger. I woke one morning to a deep purple mark across my shoulder blade. Not a bruise. A handprint. Too small to be Matt's. Too long to be mine. I didn't tell him. That same day, Matt spent an hour in the bathroom, staring at his gums in the mirror. He came out pale, sweating. They're receding, he whispered. What? My teeth look longer. He smiled weakly. I didn't see it at first, but when I looked closer, I realized what he meant. His canines were just slightly too pronounced. Not sharp. Not monstrous. But wrong. Like someone had drawn him from memory and emphasized the wrong detail. He shaved his face in silence. I watched his hand tremble. I started keeping note. Logging everything. Times we heard whispers. Which room we were in when reflections lag. I even sketched what I saw behind the glass once. Just once. A tall, thin silhouette with no mouth. Only eyes. Black pits. Watching. That night, I tried to stay awake. Fought it with caffeine, loud music, every trick I knew. But sleep won. And that's when it happened. It didn't feel like a dream. I woke up standing in the bedroom. Not in bed. Just standing. Staring into the mirror. Only, the room behind me wasn't our room. It looked like ours at first. Same bed. Same shelves. Same window. But there were no boxes. No clothes. The blanket on the mirror was gone. And everything had this dull gray film over it, like I was underwater but dry. I turned around. And the bed was empty. No Matt. No me. Then I looked back at the mirror, and saw us. Me and Matt. Lying peacefully in bed. Except I wasn't moving. And neither was he. I raised my hand. My reflection didn't. It just stared at me. Smiling softly. I screamed. No sound came out. I ran to the bed, tried to shake the version of myself awake. Nothing. My hands passed through her body like smoke. I tried Matt. Same thing. Then I heard the knock. Tap, tap, tap. From the wall across the room. The door to the hallway creaked open on its own. A shadow leaned in, tall, faceless, made of something black and flowing. Like ink frozen mid-spill. It didn't speak. It only pointed to the mirror. And when I turned back, the reflection of myself was now sitting up, staring at me from the other side. Her head tilted. Her eyes were mine, but colder. Emptier. And her mouth was moving. I pressed my hands to the glass. Screamed. Begged. Beat on it until my fists bled. And then I saw Matt's reflection stand up beside her. He took her hand. And smiled. She leaned in and whispered into his ear. And he nodded. Then they both turned their backs and walked out of frame. And I was still inside. Trapped. Alone. I woke up gasping. Back in bed. Heart hammering. But something was different. Matt wasn't next to me. I looked around, called his name. Nothing. Then I saw him. Standing in front of the mirror again. He turned slowly. And smiled. But the smile didn't reach his eyes. Because they weren't his anymore. They were mine. From the other side. Matt didn't answer me when I called his name. He just kept staring into the mirror, head tilted at the exact same angle I'd seen in my nightmare, or whatever that was. He blinked once, slowly, then turned to look at me. Something inside me recoiled. Matt? I asked again, softer. Yeah, he said. But it was off. The cadence, the tone, the way he held the word in his mouth too long, like he was trying it out. Just zoning out. He turned back to the mirror. I didn't believe him. I didn't know who I was talking to anymore. That afternoon, when he left to get coffee, I ripped the bedroom apart. The mirror was still bolted, but I knew where the weak points were. The section we'd half opened weeks ago was already cracked. I grabbed the hammer and started prying. The drywall crumbled easier than I expected. Behind the plaster and dust, I found more than just the crawl space. I found a narrow access tunnel, no wider than a person's shoulders. It ran behind the mirror wall and turned sharply to the left. Bare wood and metal beams lined the path, and it stank of old fabric and mold. I squeezed in with a flashlight. The air was warm, damp, like lungs exhaling around me. The tunnel curved and narrowed further, until I hit a break in the wall, like a hidden viewing chamber. About 4 feet tall. Inside, a wooden crate, a pile of decaying clothes and scratches. Not just on the wood this time. In the concrete. Deep gouges. Marks left by fingernails or something harder. A row of small holes bored into the wall where old camera mounts had once been. And something else. A narrow gap in the mirror from the other side. About eye level. Covered in what looked like black paint, no doubt meant to make the glass one way. But some of the paint had flaked off. I could see the bedroom through it, clear as day. This was no trick. No ghost story. Someone had lived in this passage. Someone had watched. And somehow, the mirror didn't just reflect anymore. It remembered. It absorbed. And maybe now it gave back. In the crate, beneath the clothes, I found a notebook. A battered composition book. Moldy at the edges. The first few pages were soaked and unreadable, but deeper inside, the writing began. Longhand. Uneven. Growing more erratic with each entry. The first legible page read. I watched her sleep again. She always looks so calm. But she twitches when I speak. I don't say words. Just sound. I wonder if she hears me inside. I turn the page. He's changing. Every night he leans closer to the mirror. Every night he stays longer. I think he's listening now. I saw my own reflection wave at me today. But I didn't wave first. Further in, the tone shifted. The handwriting broke down. Like the person writing was unraveling in real time. She says I can leave if I let someone take my place. She says it's like stepping out of a costume. You unzip from the spine. You wear someone new. He looked in the mirror too long. Now he moves wrong. Now he smiles too wide. And then, one final note. Scrawled across the last page in large, frantic letters. The mirror doesn't show who's there. It shows who wants to be. I backed out of the passage in a daze, choking on the dust and the meaning of those words. I held the notebook to my chest and sat on the floor for a long time, staring at my own covered reflection, wondering if what I saw the next time I pulled that blanket off would still be me. He came back smiling. That was my first clue. Matt wasn't a smiler, not unless he was mocking something, or drunk, or amused by a meme he found worth interrupting my day for. But this smile was soft, controlled, stitched perfectly across his face. Hey, he said, setting down a paper coffee cup. Got your favorite. I didn't take it. Where'd you go? He blinked, still smiling. Told you, coffee. Walked around a little. Got some air. You were gone for almost 2 hours. Lines were long. That shouldn't have mattered. But it did. I looked down at the cup. The logo wasn't from the shop on the corner. It was from a place on the other side of the city. A place we hadn't been to in months. Matt, I said carefully, What's the name of the woman who lived next door to us at our last apartment? He didn't even flinch. Doreen. But the name was Dolores. I stared at him. He just stared back, cool, calm, patient. Did something happen? He asked. Voice soft. Even. You seem off. I backed away without meaning to. He tilted his head. Just like the thing in the mirror had. I realized then. I hadn't seen Matt do that until a few nights ago. But now he did it constantly. I'm going to lie down, I whispered. Of course, he said. I'll be right here. I didn't go to the bedroom. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, turned the shower on to drown out sound, and cried. It was him. Same height. Same face. Same voice. But it wasn't him. He moved too smoothly. He blinked like he had to remember to do it. He asked questions with interest that didn't reach his eyes. Somehow, I had slept next to him the night before. I had kissed something wearing his skin. I didn't sleep again that night. I lay awake on the couch with a knife tucked under my pillow and the notebook in my hand. The last page, the one about the mirror showing who wants to be, played on loop in my head. Because if the mirror let him out, what had it done with the real Matt? I found the real Matt the next night. Not in flesh. Not alive. But in the reflection. It was around 3 a.m. I was lying on the couch, still wide awake, when I saw movement. Subtle. Just the edge of the mirror visible through the cracked bedroom door. The blanket we'd used to cover it was gone. And in the mirror, I saw him. Matt. The real Matt. Standing just outside the frame, his face bruised, eyes pleading. I crept down the hallway and stopped at the door, too afraid to cross the threshold. He looked straight at me, his mouth forming words I couldn't hear. Behind him, the other Matt, the one in the real room, lay asleep on our bed. I opened the door, and the reflection stopped, like it froze at the sight of me entering. The real Matt, my Matt, lifted his hand, placed it on the glass. I did the same. My hand passed through nothing, of course, but in the mirror our palms met. Then he mouthed something again. Break it. I turned. The thing in the bed stirred. Erin, it said in Matt's voice. Groggy. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I grabbed the lamp from the dresser, and I smashed the mirror. It didn't shatter, not at first. Cracked like something thick and tense under the surface. Spiderwebs of silver and black spread across the glass, pulsing like veins. The light in the room flickered. The thing in the bed screamed. A sound not meant for ears. Too high. Too hollow. I hit the mirror again. And this time, it broke. But it didn't fall apart. It peeled. The surface tore like paper, revealing layers beneath. Layers of faces. Dozens of them. All pressed behind the glass. All screaming. Matt was one of them. He wasn't behind the mirror anymore. He was in it. He reached for me. I reached back. And the mirror, what was left of it, swallowed the room in light. I don't remember the moment it ended. 1 minute I was reaching for Matt, my Matt, through the shards and veins of that bleeding mirror, and the next, silence, light, and then nothing. No sound. No room. No weight of my own body. Just floating in a white static void, like being buried inside a television left on with no signal. I don't know how long I was there. A minute. A year. A heartbeat stretched into infinity. Then I was awake. Back on the bedroom floor. Covered in glass. The mirror was gone. Not broken. Not shattered. Gone. No frame. No bolts. No backing. Just a clean wall where it had once hung. Matt was gone too. And I knew, in that second, he hadn't made it back. The one who replaced him, the reflection version, was gone as well. Burned out with the mirror. I think. I hope. It's hard to know for sure. Hard to trust anything now. The apartment was silent for the first time in weeks. The air felt lighter. My skin didn't crawl. I didn't feel watched. But I didn't feel right either. They called it a mental breakdown. That's what they wrote in the police report. I had to explain the holes in the wall, the missing mirror, the scratches, the blood. Matt was classified as a missing person. I didn't fight it. I told them we argued, that he left, that I stayed behind and spiraled, said I started seeing things, dreaming things, told them I smashed the mirror in a fit of grief. That part, at least, was true. I moved out the next day. Didn't pack. Didn't say goodbye. I just walked away from Ashmere Lofts and never went back. I don't use mirrors anymore. I haven't in months. Every reflective surface in my apartment is covered or painted black. I wear makeup by feel. Brush my teeth without looking. Shower with the light off. I live in a world without reflections, because I've seen what's on the other side. But still, sometimes I see movement. In my laptop screen before it boots. In the glossy surface of my phone when it's turned off. In the puddles on the street after it rains. It's always just a flicker. Just enough to catch my breath. Just enough to make me freeze. And sometimes I see him. Not the reflection. Not the fake. The real Matt. Looking back. Mouth moving. Begging. Just like he did before. And I realize the mirror didn't take him. It didn't trap him. It transferred him. He's still with me. Somehow. Somewhere. Watching from the reflections of reflections. Every time I blink, I feel like I'm trading places. Like I'm waking up in his spot, behind the glass. And one day soon, I won't be able to get back out. So if you're reading this, if you're hearing this, if you've ever caught your reflection lag, even for a second, cover it. Now. Before it memorizes you. Before it decides you're the one it wants to be. Because mirrors don't show who you are. They show who's ready to replace you.